Hey, hello, everyone. How's everyone doing? Glad you all are tuning in on tonight. This is a very special live that both my wife and I are doing. We're going to be doing a little bit more of these. Actually, we're going to probably give you a couple more of these lives throughout the week. And actually, as we continue on, actually come to you live as we kind of start up something new that we just want to be a blessing to God's people. So we're going to be doing some teachings and lives and trainings right here on live for you all who are watching on YouTube and watching on Facebook. And so before we proceed and move any further, I want you to do one thing for me. For those of you that are watching on Facebook, do one thing for me. Go ahead and share this video to your page so that more people can tune in tonight, because we have a very exciting discussion that we're going to engage in on tonight. For those of you who are believers, who are called by God, to step out of the comfort zone, or step out of the boat, if you will, into whatever venture it is that God has placed in your heart, whether that venture be. And I know sometimes people get a little funny about when you talk about a business or entrepreneurship and things of that nature, but all of that is ministry. Did you know the Bible, Peter actually, when he was appointing men to be deacons over the church, he said, I need to find men to help me run this business. He called ministry a business. Do you realize that God, whatever he gives you, it doesn't matter if it's a business, if you're selling a product or service, or if you're just preaching and ministering, it's all for the kingdom and the glory of God. All of it runs on the same exact biblical principles, and it's all to his glory. And you're supposed to let your light shine in whatever you do. So in church, in the marketplace, all of it is considered ministry, because it's all designed to bring glory to God and lead people back to Christ. So again, if God gave you something to build, if God gave you something to create, if God gave you something to do, then we definitely want to minister to you on tonight and just share a lot of wonderful guidance and tips. And we're going to share some strategies that come straight from the book of Fleming. I know it's not the book of James, not the book of Romans, no, the book of Fleming. In other words, the things that we experience, all of the things that we had to encounter and challenges that we faced. And we had some crazy challenges. I mean, we had some crazy struggles and challenges just to even get to where we are right now. And we still got challenges. I mean, let's just be honest with you. You know, there's no such thing as going through life and not having challenges. But what happens is, after a period of time, you kind of get into a groove and you get into a system, and actually your faith grows and becomes stronger, and you learn now how to navigate through challenges a lot easier than you did when you first got started. So tonight is going to be phenomenal. Don't miss it, and make sure that you share this video to your page, because I can guarantee you somebody that's connected to you is going to need what we're going to share on tonight. So you're going to be a blessing and evangelize somebody else by sharing this video. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure that you like this video, subscribe to this channel if you haven't already done so. That helps to get this content out to more and more people. So again, thank you all for tuning in. So tonight we're going to talk to you about a little bit about our journey, and we had a very interesting journey. And like I said, just at the top of the talk tonight, there's some of you that are watching right now. I don't know. You kind of tell me, maybe put it in the chat section. Let me know, talk back to us tonight. And also, I'm sorry, I need to go ahead and emphasize this, because we tend to be very interactive. Now, I know we're not in church, so we're not going to tell you to say amen and touch your neighbor and do 50, jumping jacks and cartwheels. We're not going to tell you to do any of that stuff. But what we are going to do is we're going to encourage you to be interactive. And that means to respond to certain things. And even if you have a question, feel free to post that in the comment section as well. because we do tend to answer questions and interact as we go through, and we do these types of lives as well. So we definitely, but if you're watching tonight and you feel like God is calling you to build something, maybe God is calling you to become an entrepreneur. Maybe God has put a business idea in your heart. Maybe God has put a ministry idea in your heart, and not all ministries are the same. Your ministry may be to the streets. Your ministry may be for young women. Your ministry may be for young girls or human sex traffic victims who need to recover after escaping that world. Well, I don't know what your ministry is, but it's generally something based on the passion and pain that you've gone through. But you feel this call, like God is telling you to start building something. He's telling you to start developing it. He's telling you that this is your season for you to grow and to jump out and to begin to jump into the thing that He has been placing in your heart to do for some time now. But you feel this subtle sense of hesitation. You feel like there's a blockage and a hindrance that just prevents you from taking one step. Maybe you take one step, but then you find resistance comes and knocks you back two steps, and you tend to be prone to give up or quit on the very thing that you know you should be doing, but for whatever reason, all of the challenges and the hindrances and the difficulties, they just won't let up. They're just unrelenting. And sometimes you may assume that that means God didn't call you to what you know He really called you to. And if that's you, I want you to put a yes in the chat section. I see some people already saying, hallelujah. Yes, that's me. All right now, hallelujah. Glory to God. I see. Go ahead and put that down in the chat section, because I want to know who I'm talking to. And I want to make sure that I'm clearly identifying who tonight's topic is, who is for tonight. And I'm talking to you, you individual who has dreams and aspirations, but you're dealing with certain internal challenges that are making it difficult for you to move forward with the confidence that you need. And that's key. That's a key factor right there, because anyone can start something, but can you finish what you start? Anyone can step onto the path, but can you remain the course? And can you remain the course long enough to actually experience the breakthrough that God told you you were going to experience? So tonight is all about you. Tonight is your night. You're in the right place. So I want to start first, and I got my beautiful wife right here. And again, I want to just talk a little bit about our journey. Like I say, the things that we had to go through, things that we had to face, and things that we struggled with and suffered through when we first started out. For people that don't know our story, both of us are entrepreneurs. Both of us are in ministry. You can be both, believe it or not. You can be both. You can be a minister and you can have your own business. You can preach the gospel and serve people in different ways and do all of it for the kingdom of God, because technically all of it is ministry. And my wife, she has a boutique. Her own boutique. She's been doing that for many years, but she also has her own enterprise, which consists of coaching, which consists of online trainings and classes, mentorship programs, different things that she's been doing now for over a decade, for over 12 years, really, to be exact. And me, I've been in the book publishing space, helping people to write, publish their books, to craft their stories, to develop their voice, to niche down and discover their target audiences, and to really get their message out there. And I've been publishing, writing, and ghostwriting, and doing things of that nature, and coaching as well. And we've been doing this since 2013. So both of us have served in ministry, but also both of us have served faithfully in the entrepreneurial space, and both have challenges. Both have challenges, and both have unique struggles that we've encountered. And I want to just talk a little bit about when we first started out, because when people look at us, sometimes people look at they'll look at an individual and assume that, well, you know what, everything must have been beautiful for you all. I mean, you all must have just started and just kept going up like a rocket, rocket, rocket. And people don't know that it's never been a straight shot. It's always been just like a roller coaster, ups and downs, twists and turns, and all kind of different things that have happened. So I want to just pass it over to you right quick and just kind of share a little bit about some of the struggles and challenges that you face. And also, I'm going to talk about a little bit of the struggles and challenges from my standpoint as well of when we first started out. How difficult was it when we first got started? How difficult was it financially? How difficult was it mentally and emotionally? Like, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy at all. So I'm going to let you talk to that.
Well, I just want to give you a high five because you just said that anybody can start something, but can you finish it? And so we are here. I don't know how many years we've been in it together, but we are here to let anybody know that you can start and also finish it. So
Doing a high five.
Yeah, we've been in this together for years, but like the journey said, I was just talking to my children today, and they was asking us questions about how was it when we started having children and all that stuff, and as did we do family photo shoots and all the stuff you see the generation do now. And I looked at them and I was like, we had no money. We had a beautiful family. We had love and we enjoyed being around each other, but we didn't have a lot of money. And so when you don't have a lot of money, you make the best out of moments. And we made the best out of what we could. And I didn't know ministry was in me. I didn't know that a family was in me. These are different roles: family, ministry, and a wife. Being a wife, being a mother, and then now pivoting from a job to entrepreneurship. And so no one told us that the road would be easy, but God didn't leave us. And we took this journey because we had this unction from God that there was more than just a 9 to 5. Of course, we liked the comfortable check. Of course, we liked working for someone. Of course, we liked showing up and all that, and nothing wrong with it. That's what we did. And so a journey came where we had to step out because God said there's more for you. And so when that journey came, it wasn't easy because we didn't know what it looked like. And so we did anything. We was just doing anything. And when you don't have vision, you will go any road. You'll do anything just to make some money. We wanted our children to have the best. We wanted them to even have a bed, because they were all sleeping in one bed at one point, bunk beds. And, we wanted them to just really have the best. And so when you hear, start a business, the first thing you want to do is just do anything to make some good money. And so the journey wasn't easy because we jumped into a lot of businesses and failed, and discouragement and invested in stuff, and then it didn't have a return. And so when you don't see a return, that's where the frustration and all that stuff it came in. And so then things started kind of smoothing out for us, and we finally got clear. And that is something we talk about a lot. If you don't know where you're going, you will remain stuck. So things became clear. He knew what God called him to do. I knew what God called me to do. Then we knew what to do together. And so we was like, okay, I got the blueprint. You got the blueprint. Let's seal this thing with prayer. Let's seal it with prayer. And my husband called us on a 7-day fast. We went on a 7-day fast, no food. I never did nothing like that in my life. a 7-day fast, no food, and it was water only. And we fasted for 7 days. I remember it because we had little kids and we still had to fix their food. But me and him, it got so tight one day. I remember you told me to eat a little peanut butter when we was fasting.
Yeah.
You was like, eat this peanut butter or whatever. Because I never
Feel like you're
fasted.
gonna pass out.
Yeah, you feel like you're gonna pass out, but we did 7 days no food. That's how desperate we was. We were for direction, clarity, and we knew it was more than just struggling. We knew God didn't create us to just struggle. We knew it. We was like, we're not created by God to struggle and suffer. And many of you may be watching as you hear our story. You wasn't created by God to struggle and to just suffer. No. And so we went on this fast, and we was like, we when it came to day 7, I think it was on a Sunday. He had just got through preaching. We was at home and we was feeding the children, and we still had to wait. You know, when church over with, you still got to wait until 6 p.m. And we finally ate our meal as we end our 7-day fast. And after that, the Lord spoke to me and the Lord spoke to him. And he shared with me what the Lord said. I shared with him what the Lord said. And that is the start of our journey.
And I want to say this because, for those that are listening, my wife left out a couple of details, and I'm going to fill you in on the details. When she said when we first got married and we were struggling, well, I'll tell you, there are people that are looking, and some of you are watching right now. Y'all are like, look, oh, God is calling me to do something, but I ain't got no money. All right, now let's fill in the details. So when we first got married, we were living in a 1-bedroom apartment. We had no furniture. We didn't have a bed. We were sleeping on the floor. I think we had a television. We had a television. So we had the clump box TV with the rabbit ears. You turn the rabbit ears so that you can get some kind of reception. Yeah, that's that. And we were sleeping on the floor. Now we were cool with it because when you first get married and y'all in love, y'all don't care. You sleep in a shack. After a period of time, quite naturally, kids and everything, you want to get out the shack and you want to change your situation. But that's where we started when we were first starting out. Now we're talking about when God puts a call on you, when you're called to both start a business or start a ministry, and you're called to do these things, but at the same time, this is what you're living in and this is what you're dealing with. So when we first started, that's where we started, in that 1-bedroom apartment over there off of Cascade Road. And here we are, we just basically just trying to make it by, have one car and little kids, and we're trying to navigate and do everything ourselves. And so that was a part of that struggle. And yet God still, and I remember God spoke to my heart and said, you're supposed to start a business. And to me, that sounded like foreign language, because my understanding was a minister in business. No, you're supposed to just focus on thus saith the Lord and leave all that stuff. That's for worldly people. So that was my mindset. That was my mentality. I had never thought about that. I just wanted to graduate school, get a good job, and then that's it. And yet here comes God, and he prophesied to me through a prophet back in 2006, said, and some people probably remember how his voice sounds, isn't the Lord wonderful? And he prophesied and said, God says, get into a cash flow business and start writing books and creating trainings. And this was back in 2006. But I did not obey what God told me to do until around 2013. God spoke to me, but I didn't follow the instructions until 7 years later. And so what we're explaining right now is sometimes when you have challenges, even though you're called, challenges can easily come along and derail you. Or let me say a different way, they can come along and distract you. They can distract you and get you into a place to where you forget the calling and you forget the assignment and you forget the instruction that you had already received. And then we found ourselves in a place where we were just crying out to God, like, God, help us, because things started getting tight. We got a house. We, got little kids now. but things were getting very tight financially. Things were getting tight. We find ourselves, dealing with a season of struggle. And I remember during that time period, God had really opened up a door for you to go and work on the job. You got a job as a second Section 8 leasing agent, and like my wife said, she was bringing home good money. Both of us were bringing home good money. I'm working at the church as an administrator. She's working as Section 8. And we're bringing guaranteed income because that's what a job provides. But then lo and behold, God comes through and does something that just shatters our world. He tells you to stop working, and he tells you to write a book and start a business. He's already spoken to me about starting a business years before. I didn't follow his instructions, but now he's speaking to you about starting a business. And I'm like, God, you couldn't have picked a better time to do this. Now, I mean, why you got to pull my girl off of her job now? Because we enjoying that money. We enjoying that paycheck. Now you telling us to start a business, and neither one of us knew what to do. And that's when we started getting into all kind of stuff, network marketing. We sold everything. We sold organic coffee. We sold acai drinks. We sold weight loss products. We sold Melaleuca. She sold Mary Kay. Not we, she. Well, we sold almost everything that we could get our hands on and made absolutely no money at all.
It was so discouraging. There would be nights I would cry, and it was like, Lord, why are we going through this torment? Did you put us on this earth to fail? Like, we got children. See, I can see if it was just me and him still trying to, we single, we trying to figure things out. Now we had 3 children involved in our struggle, and we was trying our best to break curses. Like, we're like, okay, hold on. We don't want the children to see struggle. We don't want them to see 2 parents that all we have is nothing, no credit, no debt. I mean, just debts. And we was like, we need something. So when we started all those businesses and not to see any money, it was so discouraging. And I know some of you are watching right now because you probably did start because you didn't have clarity on what it was really what you wanted to do. And that's why we're sharing with you that we would go up to people, and I would go up to people that was successful because I was in so much pain. And I would ask them, can you tell me any pain points in your life? And I had people come up to me while we were suffering, and they would tell me, oh, you see the glory now, but we went through foreclosures. We had to file Chapter 13 and da-da-da. So people was encouraging us that you see the glory now, but we had to go through some stuff. And so that was encouraging me not to hear people's pain, but when you're in pain and you know that it has to be a way out somehow. Those stories did help me to see that this is not the end for us, and God has something for us, and we're going to see the light. We're going to see the light. And, being a wife and the financial pressure you see on your husband, and then you see him and you see the children, you can't go on vacation. While, it's spring break and we still at home. And so, that's when we started taking the kids to the park. We didn't have to pay for this, but y'all can have fun, run. We did the free water parks. We did the free
we stayed at Stone Mountain.
Just taking the kids out because we was like, we're not going to die in this. We don't have no money, but we tried. We tried and we failed, but we're not going to give up.
I want to say something about that because that's important. People oftentimes overlook the fact that just because you don't have money doesn't mean that you can't start what God told you to do and build what God told you to do. And I think that's where most people kind of get hung up. But I don't have the money. And they actually approach that before they even consider starting. But I don't have the money. And the reality is, really, most people don't have the money. I like reading up on biographies and different people One of my favorite places, and my wife probably at this point can't stand going there, but Orlando, Florida. Every year, let's go to Orlando, Florida. I just want to go nothing but the theme parks. I can't stand going to the beach. I just want to go to the theme parks. She want to go to the beach all the time where it's boring. But we go down there to Orlando, Florida, and I love going to Disney World. I'm sorry, I still love going to Disney World, and I still love getting on roller coasters. But when you look at Disney, though, the guy that built the place, he started with only $40 in his net to his name. You look at this great empire that he built, but he only had $40 to his name. And then you look at his story. For 20 years straight, he was on the verge of filing bankruptcy every year for over 20 years. And he did file bankruptcy twice and had a nervous breakdown and nearly lost his mind while he was trying to build this beautiful theme park that we enjoy, or at least I enjoy going to year after year. So we love to talk about someone's their success and how wonderful. And we'll look at them sometimes with these envious eyes and like, yeah, look at you, you riding high. Yeah, but when you start with only $40 to your name and you got a nervous breakdown because all of your staff then walked off and abandoned you for your competition, and everybody turned their back on you, and all of your investment and ideas just got stolen, and you literally lost everything, and you literally have to file bankruptcy and then go and file bankruptcy again. And every year for 20 years, you're on the verge of bankruptcy because you don't have anything and you're struggling like crazy while trying to build a theme park. Some of us may need to kind of take a second look at that whole paradigm, that mentality of, but I can't start because I don't have money. And for us, that this is the highlight. This is the part that I don't care where we go in life. This is the part I always come back to in my mind. I always come right back to when we were broke as Job's turkey. We didn't really have much of anything, but I remember we made the rule in the house. We said every week we got to go somewhere as a family, and we would go to free places. We would on Wednesdays. I took off Wednesdays and we would go to either to the mall or go to the park. We would go somewhere. We would go maybe to the movies if we could, or go to like the aquarium. But we made sure that with our kids, they would not stay in the house. We had to be somewhere as a family every single week on Thursdays. The screen on the green down at Centennial Park. I made sure to rush home from work, get my family, rush them down there so that we can enjoy something together as a family. That was a rule. I said that's a rule.
We did the drive-in movie.
Oh yeah, we lived at the drive-in
because I think it was cheaper. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a whole lot cheaper at the drive-in. We stayed there. You see, the rule is you got to go to like the cookout first and load up on hamburgers and fries. You just load up. That way you don't have to go to the concession stand.
You can grill out there. But what we're trying to show you is we were in an ugly situation, but we stuck it out. That's with a hand. With a hand. We stuck it out. The children, we just made sure they kept smiling. Just try to make sure he didn't go down, I didn't go down. And so you're going to go through some seasons. And, we would tell the children, we never lived this before. So, who thought that this would happen to us or whatever. So we had this in our hands and we had to learn how to pivot. But one thing we did was we didn't allow a lack of money to stop us. And that's when we found out we didn't have a money problem. It was a mindset. Wow. It was a mindset. So we found out that, really it was what was in our minds. And so once we began to start undoing some things and like reprogramming our minds, that's when we started pivoting. And, my husband stayed at the bookstore. So let me tell you another thing. We stayed at the bookstores a lot. We had the children at the bookstores a lot. And we would spend a lot of our times there because we couldn't afford money to buy the books. So we will read the books at the
Now, we
bookstore.
could afford to buy a book now. We weren't that broke. but, but we stayed at the bookstore though in the children's section to keep them out the house and off of gadgets and stuff.
So we would read the books there and get information. But one of the books I believe my husband put me on, it would teach me that I never lose. Is I always win, or I either win or I either learn. I don't lose. I either win or I have learned a lesson. I didn't lose. I didn't fail. I'm not a failure. And so you have to encourage yourself. If you see things not working, I didn't fail, I learned. I need you to get that today. I didn't fail, I learned. I learned not to do that kind of business. I learned it's not that the business didn't work. I just didn't invest in myself. I didn't get the knowledge. It's not that the marriage didn't work. We either didn't get the knowledge or we didn't get the information. You don't lose. You don't fail. You either learn. This time around, okay, it's been 10 years now. The marriage ain't been working. That means somebody need to get some investment. We need to invest on, I was talking to somebody today. I said, are your words like honey? Is it coming out like honey? Do you have the fruit of the spirit? Are you patient? It's not that the children failed. You failed as a parent. No, is I've learned, okay, maybe I didn't invest in them here and I invested more in business than I invest in my children. So if you see your children failing, your family failing, it's not because of something bad that you just didn't invest in it. If your money is going down, all of these things is to encourage you. You didn't lose, you didn't fail. You either learn or you always win. All right. So that is, the start of our journey. And just to encourage some of you all that, we had ups and downs, but here we are on a journey where we had to learn how to pivot, and still we're called. You are called, but you're going through. You are called and you don't have all of the resources. And so one of the good things about it was, me and my husband, we were fighters. That's another hand. We were fighters, and we were living in an apartment because we downsized. At that particular time, we couldn't afford where we were living, so we downsized.
We could afford it, but we actually made a decision, a conscious decision, that even though we could afford it, the problem was we were living within our means. So all of our money was being dumped into the property. And I'm gonna let you finish on this point, but we had to make a sacrifice. We basically had to make a decision with regards to our living arrangement at that time. Are we going to invest into our dream, or continue to take all of our money and just invest it into a property? And that's kind of where this part picks up.
So we noticed that in order to invest, you need money to invest. Instead of taking out loans or whatever, we already had money in our hands, but it was going into other stuff. And so we had to make a decision. It is time for us to invest in some things. So we invested in ourselves. We invested in trainings. We invested in coaching. We did a lot of investing. And so here it is time for us to implement things. And I remember we was living in an apartment, and I was getting depressed because I just felt like we were stuck, and I really wanted more. And I just got tired of building and still struggling. And so I went through this just depressed season, and it was just, just hating that season, not liking it, and then didn't know that if you complain, you will remain. And I didn't know I was supposed to be with the spirit of gratitude. So I was really grumpy and just had a negative attitude with our living situation. And my husband came up to me. He saw the children. He saw me. And he was like, I'm going to take all of the children out of this room and stack them in one room and we're going to create a studio in the apartment. And he painted it, and he began to say, let's create you your own show. Let's create some products. And that's when things started making sense. God didn't design me and him to work for somebody else, build somebody else, but there was something in us that God had called us to do. And so when you find out what God has called you to do, no one can replace you. On a job, a person can replace you, but your calling, no one can replace you. The only person that can replace you is God. And so on the job, somebody can replace you, but your calling, only God. No one can unseat you. No one can take you off of the throne that God has placed you in. And so that's when my husband's creative juices started flowing and all kind of things. But after that fast is where his creative juices started flowing. When we went on that fast, we didn't have any money, but we was fighters. And so one thing I know, at that point, I didn't start the business, but I was still working. And I believe the coaching that we wanted to receive was 2,500.
No, it was 3,000.
It was 3,000.
Yeah.
So it was 3,000 to get coaching. And so
for one day.
And just for one day, no other, wasn't no 5 weeks, it was one day. But we really needed it. And we saw the results that this coach had given other people. So we was like, we just got off this fast. Let's go and get this coaching. And so we were fighters. And so we didn't have no $3,000. And so my husband worked, I worked, and we just literally, I reached out to this lady on Facebook and I said, my husband and I, we cannot pay $3,000 a person. That's $6,000 to go to her meeting. I said, can we come together as couples? She said, okay, you all can do that. And I said, I don't have $3,000, but can I pay you $100? Because she gave us time. And so I said, can I pay you $100 until I get up? And so I took a nighttime job or something. It was at the church. I was answering the phones or something like that.
Yeah, actually, and I remember it very, very clearly because the back, God had spoken to my wife. God has spoken to you through a prophetess who came to the church. Prophetess Bankston, I'll say her name. And she came to the church and she gave a prophetic word to my wife and said, God said, you're not supposed to be on that job. Now, that job was good, but it was meant for a season, only for a season. It was not supposed to be permanent. It was supposed to be temporary. But my wife got comfortable with that income that was coming in, 6 and 8, leasing the agent and, bringing home all this big money. Then the prophetess prophesied, God says, you're not supposed to be on that job. You're supposed to write a book. And God says you're supposed to start a business and you're going to prosper. You're going to see a lot of prosperity. And once you step out and do what God told you to do, he's not going to open up any more doors for you to work. That was on, I think, on a Saturday. And at the time, the company had furloughed everyone. So you were working through a temp agency. And I remember my wife, she would be running all these apartment complexes and through the temp agency that she was working. So they were calling her every day, every week with work, just through the temp agency. That prophecy came Saturday, Monday, they did not call. Tuesday, they didn't call. Wednesday, they didn't call. Thursday, we called them. Do you have any work for, my wife was like, do you have any work for me? They was like, I'm sorry, Miss Fleming, but there's nothing available. If anything comes available, we'll let you know. Click. They didn't call back. We still waiting to this very day. They still ain't called us. I mean, but the thing is, when God said, I'm not opening any doors for you to work, he meant it. The temp agency dropped my wife cold. Now, distractions, the company, the property management company, all of a sudden opened back up and started rehiring. And they called my wife and said, Ms. Fleming, we would like to bring you back in to work, but we have to start you out in a lower position. So you're not going to be up here. You're going to be in the call center. And yeah, so they told her you're going to be in the call center. And when they brought my wife in, when they brought her into the call center, I'm gonna make this quick so we can kind of rush it. But when they brought her in, I like to say she ended up working for the Antichrist niece. I mean, they had a new supervisor that was there that just had one job to make her life a living hell. And so that's when she found herself going through acid reflux and everything from the stress of that job because she stayed where she was not supposed to be, but God told her to leave. After that, that's when we reached out and said, we are trying everything. We're doing network marketing. We're trying this, we're trying that. Nothing is working. We ain't making any money. We're trying to sell everything else. God, you told us to start a business. We heard your voice. We disobeyed your voice. We disobeyed you. You said, don't go back to work. You know, my wife was like, I'm going back to work. And then they ended up with Antichrist niece. And we were just like, okay, God, you know, something has to give because she's getting sick. Now my income, I'm trying to cover everything. And she's starting to get sick on that job. And we got these little kids and, we trying to figure out what to do because now it's getting serious. That's when we prayed. And then God, I think he led you first to the lady, and she was a coach, and told us, put it on our hearts that we got to invest into this lady. Sometimes you like, God, I just want you to just send me the answer. And I don't know if any of you are in that boat. Maybe you're in the chat section. You could probably say, yeah, that's me. I'll just be praying like, God, just send the answer, like peel back the clouds and just let the sky roll back. And you just write the answer on the sky or something and just give it to me, download it in the dream or something. And God won't do it. He'll tell you, I'm going to give you the answer, and I'm going to give you the answer through somebody else. And he won't make it easy for you because one person said it this way: when you struggle and when you put in sacrifice, when you put in sweat equity, when you really put your sweat, blood, and tears into something, it causes you to value things more. That's why the old saying is, people pay attention to what they pay for, but when you give everything for free, they don't value it. So sometimes God makes us pay for things because he already knows our mentality. If he would have just given it to us, we just toss it to the side. We wouldn't even do anything with it. So we were in that boat. We got to come up with $3,000 to pay this lady. $3,000. We are struggling to keep the bills paid. We got 3 kids we're taking care of, 1 car. We're already back against the wall, already crunch. We're already at crunch time. And here we are. Listen, here we are making an investment while we are going through a crazy struggle season. And yet God is telling us, invest $3,000 into this lady. So we worked out a plan. I said, well, Jackie, that job is making you sick, but you need to come off that job. So this is what you do. You just save up for the next 2-3 weeks or whatever. You work, you collect your paycheck, you put your paycheck towards the investment. My money, my paycheck, I'm covering all the bills, so you don't have to help with the house. And we're just going to strategize. We're going to have to cut back things. We're going to have to cut out sacrifices we're going to have to make. Can't eat out, can't do a lot of that stuff. We're just going to have to scale back so that we can redirect our money into the dream that we have. And by the grace of God, we came up with that money and we invested into that person. And that highlights the importance of having a coach, because before that, we were just burning our wheels, doing everything and getting nowhere, joining every network marketing business, trying to figure out what to do. But and I want to end it on this, but when we hooked up with that coach, she did something that was extraordinary. She did something extraordinary. She helped us to discover that the business that God was calling us to was not organic coffee, was not weight loss supplements. Not saying anything against any of that. It was not, another network marketing. The business that God was actually calling us to was something that we already had the whole time, but we didn't know that we had already had it. She looked at me and said, Tim, I don't know why in the world you're trying to sell coffee and beans and everything else. Aren't you a writer? Yeah. Don't you love to write? Yeah. Well, why don't you use your writing to serve others? Well, I just write for myself. Well, why don't you use that gift to serve other people and figure out how to monetize it? And she worked with my wife and did the same thing and really kind of talked to my wife about what she had inside of her. Because most of you, the people who are watching tonight, have something that is inside of you. You're looking everywhere else for an answer, everywhere else for a solution, everywhere else for a product or service or something that you can give. You're looking everywhere else. But the funny thing is, the only a select few who are watching this live. Some of you hear God telling you that the answer is not out there. The answer is already in here. I placed it in you. And I'm trying to turn what you have, what you naturally have, what you're naturally gifted at, what your natural proclivity is, what you have a tendency towards. I'm trying to turn that into your business, not something else. I'm trying to take what you already have and turn that into the thing that's going to transform your life. And so I don't know if you want to just share one word about that. And so my wife said it's time for us to go ahead and get ready to close this off. So, but for those of you that may be watching tonight, and I just want to really leave you with this, that there's something that's already inside of you. I think about the Bible verse when the widow woman was praying and asking God for an answer, and God sent the prophet, and the prophet looked at her, and he didn't say, go find something somewhere else. No, the prophet actually looked at her and said, well, asked her, what's in your house? So that's really kind of the question I want to leave you with on tonight. What is in your house? Not somebody else, what they're doing, but what is in your house, or what's inside of you. Because it took us spending thousands of dollars for someone to help us to come to that realization that the business God was calling us to. And by the way, this isn't like a toot the horn thing or whatever, but we've made six figures. We've made a ton of money, through the business that she's done and the business that I've done. So we've seen plenty of money. We've seen plenty of days with money, some days good, some days bad, but we've seen an influx of finances come in through the very things that God called us to do. And it did transform our lives and put us in a different position financially. It put us in a different position financially, even a different tax bracket. The IRS will let you know about that. But it all started with us being obedient, and it took me several years to finally submit. But I needed a coach because I had bad ideas and didn't know what to do. My wife needed a coach because we were both lost. And so God did not give us the answer through prayer. What God did was through prayer, he put someone in front of us and told us connect with that person. But we had to scratch and claw to be able to invest into that person so that we could establish that connection and get the guidance that we needed. And God did not make it easy for us, because if he did, we wouldn't have valued any of what he would have given us anyway. So I'm going to say that and really just kind of leave it right here. Do you have any parting words, anything that you want to share All right, I think she probably getting a little hot because it is a little hot in here with these camera lights looking. But I do want to leave it with that. I'm looking at the chat section and I don't see anyone any questions or anything. But I do see a lot of confirmations, a lot of people that are put in the chat section. So if you're watching tonight and if anything that we've spoken or said has resonated with you, I want you to put a yes in the chat section. And even if you don't mind, go ahead and put down what was said that really resonated with you, because I want to hear back from you as well.
And so we just tonight, and I'm sorry, I got hot with the TV lights. He turned on the air. It got too cold.
I told her to keep the air on. She said, cut the air on.
He turned on the air. It got too cold. And then he told me that it was going to get hot with the TV lights. These lights are hot. And so now it's hot in here with these lights. And if he leaves, he got to cut the air on. So, but it gets real cold in here. And so you got to pick and choose. You're going to get cold. You're going to get hot. So I just got hot. And he told me to bring my water. I will bring my water. So that is being married.
Hard head make a soft behind.
So, but we just started off just sharing with you all our journey to entrepreneurship. That's just entrepreneurship. We didn't talk about our journey in marriage, our journey with children. We have some new exciting journeys that's about to come up, and there's so many other things that God is still doing in our lives. So he's still writing our chapters and all kind of stuff, but we just shared the struggle in just starting out in entrepreneurship. And it wasn't always easy, but we still pivot. We still continue to keep going. Went through some financial struggles, raising children, and even with our marriage. So we talked about the children's side, and even with our marriage side, how sometimes we couldn't go on vacations and we still had to just go out and hang out in the city, or just go for a walk in the park. But God eventually later on, he started blessing us and showed us that he was faithful. And we started going on beautiful vacations. All these things he started later on. So
later on,
it's nothing wrong. That's why they said never despise small beginnings. And I want you to be encouraged today. Envy no man. Envy no man. Right now we're sitting in our studio here in the office. Envy no one. You never know what they have to go through, what they have to sacrifice. You never know the pain, the struggle. And sometimes we like to see people's glory, but you don't know their story. And so you have a story, and eventually you're going to get some glory. And there are some people that's just they're not going to like your glory. But if you try to explain to them, hold on, do you understand that we have never been on a vacation, or we hardly ever get to enjoy this. People don't care that. They just want to see your pain. But you will get glory if you continue. And so I believe tonight, because my husband said we're going to continue these lives, but I think tonight was all about just encouraging you all. Start. It doesn't matter, all of this. Start somewhere and be consistent. We, for the past years, we didn't pivot. We're still doing the same thing that we did, and on that 7-day fast, we stuck with it. And we continue in it. We went through some challenging seasons, but we stuck with it. And so I'm here to tell you, yes, you can continue to fast. But I promise you, when we will fast, we will get the same thing. Keep doing what I told you to do.
Let's keep going.
Keep going.
Let's keep going.
And some of us will keep fasting, asking God for something new. But he is saying, go back and do that cupcake business.
So we'll stop here, but we have to come back and probably talk about the importance of being consistent. We had to come back and talk about that, because that was a key ingredient in everything that we were able to accomplish, because anybody that ever tells you that you're going to do something and overnight is going to work, or that if God's anointing is on it, then it's going to automatically succeed with no obstacles, they selling you a wolf ticket. Everything that God calls you to do, just because God calls you to do it, doesn't mean that you don't have to be consistent, and doesn't mean that you're not going to experience some dips before you experience a rise. So
remember, when you put a seed in the ground, it doesn't grow overnight. And so some of you right now, you're dealing with a seed. You planted the seed, you're doing it, and continue doing it, because we're going to share with you how when I first launched my school, how it was so discouraging. A lot of stuff we launched and we did what God said, and we had probably one person to support. Sometimes it was two, sometimes it was three. And
you start YouTube videos and get online and only just 5 people are watching, and you're like, but I want 50,000 people, and nobody's tuning in.
Oh, it was some discouraging seasons. I didn't understand. I'm like, hold on, you sent a prophet to me. You sent one to my husband. Why aren't we seeing success? Why aren't we growing? What is going on? Why are we not getting support? There were plenty times I went to my husband and I said, I'm going back to work. And he would encourage me, you just have to work what he said. And I'm like, that's what we're doing. We're not seeing, it's one thing to do all work and no play. All work and no play. That is discouraging, where you're just constantly working and you don't get a reward, or you don't get a replenishment.
You don't feel like it's paying off.
It's not paying off. So that was the discouraging moments for me. Even when we would do conferences, in the beginning, it was so much investing, and then we would look at each other after the conference and we're like, my God, can I at least pay off this credit card that I used to pay for this and pay for that? And there was no return on anything. And one day, we kept going. And those things that we never gave up on started selling out. Seeing people pay for it. The boutique, I think I told you all about that. I had an online boutique. Few orders here and there, just clothes sitting there. I had to shut it down, relaunched it, shut it down, relaunched it. And then when we finally opened up, God sent strangers to sell us out with clothes here. And I'm like, seasons that I cried, I am now reaping, so I'm here to tell you, there were crying seasons, frustrating seasons, but there were times where no one would purchase a course. Now we will see seasons. You put up a flyer. We got 900 students. 900. See, these are more testimonies. We got 900 students now in that school. I couldn't believe it, because we started off with 0. I'm talking about on my face crying, but those was the beginning. And so we're just trying to encourage you, and we're going to give this hand clap again. You can start, but you got to learn how to finish.
We're going to talk to you more about this, about consistency. You're not going to succeed at anything if you're not consistent. And the biggest enemy of consistency is mindset. You don't need someone to tell you what to do. You just need to be consistent with what you're supposed to do. And that's the reason why mindset is so critically important. So I want to do this because there's some of you that are watching tonight. And look, we're going to go ahead and bring this to a close, and we're going to come back. But I do want to share with those that are tuning in tonight. Now, look, we're doing these teachings, and I told my wife, I said, look, we're just going to get on here and we're going to teach, because this is something that had been brewing in my heart. I said, we need to do a podcast. We need to do a podcast show. We need to start really teaching what we learn, and do it for free. It's not about paying or whatever, but do it for free. But one of the things that did help us and did shift our lives was the fact that we did get aligned with a coach. We found a coach, and that coach actually mentored us because we were lost, trying to figure out what direction to go in, where to go, what to do, what do we monetize, what do we even have to monetize. Do we go back to selling coffee, or do we sell? What do we do? We were just lost as I don't know what. And so God pointed us to a coach and said, that's the first step that you are going to take. And this is how I'm going to shift your life. So what we're going to be teaching you is exactly the exact road that my wife and I took, of how we were able to actually build something. We were able to build the conferences. We were able to build the coaching programs. We were able to build the businesses. We were able to build these things without bank loans and without everybody else and all of this support. We just got out there and built it, but it started first with the coach. So I want to give you the same opportunity. If this is for you, now this isn't for everyone, and I'm not looking for everyone to be a part of this, only for select people. And I'm going to tell you the exact people that I'm looking for. Individuals who, number one, know what God is telling you to do. Not looking for someone that's like, well, I'm trying to figure it out. I don't know. I don't even know if God is called. No, I got other resources and things, some free resources and things on my website, on my wife's website, and we do a lot of teachings for free. That's for that crowd. For individuals who are sitting there saying, you know what, I already know God is telling me right now. He's telling me. He's telling me to do the exact thing that you and Jackie did. God is telling me to write a book. He's telling me to start a conference. He's telling me to start a program. He's telling me to go into the field of actually coaching and mentoring other people, because that's what we did. That's our journey. That's the steps that we took. And you are feeling that God is literally telling you to take that same exact journey. We're not selfish with it, like, oh, we just want to do it and we just want to make sure that we're the only ones succeeded. No, we went through Hades in them early days trying to figure our way through, and spent so much money and wasted so much time jumping into stuff we ain't had no business jumping into, and lost money, lost time, and was chasing people all through the streets, highways, church, trying to sell them coffee. I'm sorry, just being animated, but we just went through and we struggled unnecessarily because we were too stubborn to do what God told us to do. And one of the reasons, we didn't have anybody there to guide us. So listen, only for those individuals that you're the one that I'm speaking to tonight, that you're saying, God is telling me I need to do the exact same thing that you and your wife were doing, because that's what God is calling me to. He wants me to mentor, coach. He wants me to write, to produce and create for other people. He's calling me to that. Well, if that's you, then I want to give you the gift of mentorship. And mentorship, I'm going to put this on the screen up in there. You should be, that side, I guess. Yeah. You should be able to see there's a QR code. And this is something that we're going to do, and it's only for this one weekend. We did this years ago. It's been ages since we did it, but we just kind of had an idea. Let's do it again and do it as a real gift and a blessing to those who are on our exact journey. Not everybody else, but only specific people who are on our journey. You're called to coach. You're called to public speaking. You're called to create conferences and events because you have a message and a story inside of you that, if you don't have the right guidance, is going to die and go into the ground. And you know that this movement God put inside of you needs to be connected with a certain people, the right people. And you want to find out how to take what God has given you and take that gift and turn it into a product, service, and a movement that can begin to transform the lives of other people. Then go ahead and click on that QR code that you see up in the corner there. And go ahead, and we're having, again, like I say, it's on May the 2nd, which is this Saturday. It's our Purpose Boot Camp, and I call it 2.0 because we're going to cover some things, and we're going to Not, this isn't a master class, this isn't a webinar, and this isn't a 3-day challenge. This isn't more information. No, this is, you come here or you get online and we walk you through the process step by step of getting whatever it is that God is calling you to do, of building it, of getting, of actually pointing you and walking you through the process of doing the exact thing that we have and are doing. So you can go ahead and click on that QR code. And like I say, I hope to see you again in the classroom as we do this incredible boot camp 2.0. So thank you all for tuning in tonight. Oh yeah, let me go to the comment section because I don't know if we have any questions. Anybody? Oh, I'm sorry. My wife is reminding me to make sure that we post the link.
He that finds a wife finds
Lord have mercy.
Good thing.
There she is trying to take credit. I already knew what to do. I'm just joking. Amen.
Did you put it on the screen?
Put it on the screen. All right. So look at her sitting here, just instructing me along the way. All right. There we go. All right. There we go. Yeah, I definitely encourage you to be a part of that because you don't want to miss that. Again, that is this Saturday. We're only doing it on a Saturday. And yes, it is an all-day event. It is all day. So if you're tuning in online, and we do have limited space in the studio, we're going to be in the studio. We're going to be teaching it.
This studio right here.
Yeah, this studio right here, beautiful. I wish you could see it because right now we got the green screen, but it's beautiful with the accent walls and everything. And we're going to have it really set up beautifully and nice for you. But only 20 people are allowed in the studio. That's it. After that, there's no more. But for those individuals, you will be sitting down with both my wife and I as we directly walk you. And she operates heavily prophetically. I operate with plenty of wisdom and just allow God to move me in that direction. We're going to come together and we're going to take you step by step through the process and do it for each customized individual that comes into the room. So I hope to see you.
So it's time for you to rule and reign. We have some people that's on here. We're getting ready to help walk in that purpose God has called them to do. And he's going to literally teach you everything God has placed on the inside of us. And I couldn't believe the price. He dropped it all the way down.
We paid $3,000. You're not paying anywhere near $3,000, not even a fraction of that. But there is an investment. And you know why? And I kind of wrestled with this. I'm going to say this because I was like, God, I just want to do it for free. And the Holy Spirit says, remember what I took you and your wife through? I brought you to a decision-making point where you could have taken your money and you could have just said, we're going to put this on a vacation, or we're just going to buy some clothes, or but instead I challenged you. I challenged you because until you put some investment in, you're not going to get anything out. And so God had to really chastise me in that situation.
Is there a question?
I'm sorry. No, that's not a question. It's a comment.
Oh.
But yeah, he had to really challenge me that no, you two didn't get anything for free. And we actually invested upwards of $50,000. And that's a different story. But that initial investment, that was God's challenge to us, that you're not moving anywhere if you're not willing to invest, because you pay attention to what you pay for. And so that's the reason why we say there is an investment, but it's not the investment that we had to make when we started out. No, that's, let me see. Oh, I'm sorry. That is a question. When did you realize that a boutique business was within you? And how did you know that it was time to launch it?
Okay. So, at first we was doing these other businesses. I was doing Mary Kay and all that good stuff. But my background is the beauty industry, and I went to school for modeling, acting, makeup and all that good stuff. And so I actually got called to move to California in New York. And so I really invested heavily into the beauty industry, makeup, how to walk the runway and all that good stuff. And so I first started selling little products here and there, and then um, I eventually got a hold of some wholesalers, and I started my online store. And how I started my online store is when my husband came off of his fast, and I believe we'll start talking about that. I started seeing a lot of his gifts, and he was very creative. He designed my website, he designed my cards, he designed my books. He wrote my book. He goes, he is a very great creator. The video you saw that we started, he learned how to edit videos. He learned how to do graphics and all this stuff. And so I went to him and was like, can you put together my website for my online store? It was a lot of work, but he put it together. And that's how I started my online store. From the fashion industry, I didn't want to feel like I was a failure by not pursuing modeling and acting. I had a choice to choose whether to do that full time or go into ministry full time. So I picked ministry, but the Lord said, I didn't tell you to stop it.
Yeah.
We continue with the, you see, this is from the boutique. What I have on is from the boutique. So I ran in there and grabbed something from the boutique. And sometimes I'll be putting stuff on too big, and I'll put a belt on it. So this is from the boutique. So I never gave up what God called me to do with the fashion industry. I still wear the clothes. Even my hair is a fashion statement. This is a wig. Everything we do is a fashion statement to encourage me that I never gave up on my fashion career and all those things. And so that's what I did with the clothing boutique. And eventually I wasn't even supposed to be here. This studio was all about my husband. This studio was for him. It was the publishing was for him. All of this stuff, it was for him. He came up to me and he was like, we got one more room left and it's perfect. We're going to put your online store. He actually said it here, and it was like a surprise to me. And I was like, oh, I can bring my boutique, because I was really just like a wife just pushing her husband. And I believe it was his season. I believe it was his time, for this space. And he was like, we're going to do this together. This publishing company, this studio, all this stuff, we're going to add you up there in the front. And so when you come into the boutique, it's a small space, but it's supposed to be just enough for a little few of my collection. And we didn't know it was going to do this great. We didn't know. We have people travel from all over the world. When they come in town, they're like, Jackie, we're coming to your store. We have taken pictures with people. They always stop by. So God has been good to us. It wasn't good at the beginning. It was very discouraging at the beginning, but now we can say, because we obeyed God and we was consistent, we stuck with it through the hard seasons, even had to shut it down, relaunch it, shut it down again, relaunched it. We are able to still give God glory. It's been 6 years. We have been in this building. 6 years, either 5 or 6.
No, it's 6 years.
Yeah, 6 years. We have been in this building. So we are ready. If you didn't get the link, in this building this Saturday, we're going to be coaching you either in person or online. You ready?
Yeah. And I see, so thank you for answering my question, because I recently launched my boutique business as well. So yeah, my wife, she definitely has a lot of great information on boutiques and how to get the clients. And that's what every boutique owner is questioning, not just where to get clothes, but how to get clients. And so she has a whole teaching that she does on that. I do see another question I want to get to this one. Let me see. Should a Christian feel guilty in promotion secular world? Should a Christian, I guess if I'm reading this correctly, should a Christian feel guilty if you're, and I want to make sure I'm reading it correct, if you're in the secular arena or if you're promoting something secular? I'm trying to make sure, so I'll just try to answer it to the best that I can. Um, Paul said in the Bible, he was speaking to believers and telling them that if you're around another Christian and that Christian is living an ungodly lifestyle, do not eat with such a person. I think that's 1 Corinthians 5. But then he turned around and he made this statement, but to those who are not saved, I think there's all right. Okay. He says to those that are not saved, he says, if you were to abandon them, then who would be there to shed the light to them? And we got to remember that it's
promoting the secular world.
Promoting the secular world. And so that I'm gonna be honest, that question is very vague, because when you say promote the secular world, what exactly are you referring to promoting? Is if you're talking about, for example, promoting secular music, let's say you're a producer and you have an artist and they are singing what we would consider to be secular songs. Well, there are fine lines where the Spirit of God has to speak to you, because all of us as believers participate in the secular world. All of us. And if you work a job, you are, by virtue of the fact that you are contributing to a company, most likely, which is secular, you are in the field of promoting the secular world. You're promoting a product or a service or something that is being produced by someone that is not a believer, but you're getting a paycheck, So that is, in a sense, a form of promoting the secular world. So we have to know the fine lines, or know the details here of that question. I saw another question also, and I want to answer this because actually this one was asked first. Let's see here. Is it true when God gives you a vision, you have to do that first before you can do anything else? Well, no, you can say no. God can give you a vision and you can flat out, like I did for 7 years, say, no, I don't want to do that. I just want to do this. You got it right. You're a free will agent. You don't have to follow God's plan. But I'm going to tell you what happens if you don't follow God's plan. Get ready for years of frustration. Get ready to open the door to the enemy to invade your life and to rob you of the very inheritance, because we think divine inheritance is just going to be bestowed upon us through some supernatural means. No, God is trying to give you your divine inheritance through very practical means. So he may tell you, I desire to bless you and to break a generational curse of generational poverty off of your life. But the way I'm going to do it is by you starting that business I told you to do. And you're waiting for someone to give a miracle seed, and God said, no, I gave you an idea or a product. You haven't launched it yet. So you're going to frustrate yourself by not following God's plan. So it's highly advised that you do what God is instructing you to do, because the alternative is just to incur headaches that you don't have to deal with. Some things we deal with are not from God. They're from our own stubbornness and disobedience. Okay, I see. So yeah, definitely scan the QR code for the information if you want to be a part of it. And again, I'll make sure I put that link back up on the screen as well for those who would like to be a part of it. I'm going to take one last question that someone put down, and I think it's kind of like a question, or it may be more a form of a comment, but my editors are not believers. Could that be the problem? Well, that's something I'm assuming that I will be speaking to, because if you're writing a book, you're producing a book or what have you, If you have the wrong editors, that will be a problem. You may have a great message, but you may have a poor delivery. It's not that God didn't tell you to write it or God didn't tell you to do something. Sometimes it's just in the execution. And if you have the wrong people that are working on the project that God gave you, then yeah, if they don't have the biblical awareness, they don't have spiritual literacy, they don't understand the language, they don't understand spiritual concepts and principles, then God may have given you an incredible book or story or message or what have you to share, but the wrong people that are speaking into your ear will distort what God gave you and try to flip it into something that it's not meant to be. So yeah, you want to be very cautious about that.
And congratulations on your boutique.
Awesome.
Congratulations on starting your boutique.
Awesome. So we're going to go ahead and stop here. We're going to stop here. If you have any questions, just save them for the next live, and we'll try to come back and answer any questions. I clicked on something right here. Let's move that off the screen. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it for tonight. So thank you all for tuning in tonight. Like I say, go ahead and click on the link for those that are interested in the Purpose Bootcamp 2.0. And we will see you on the next live, or hopefully we will see you at the actual boot camp itself. So until then, you all be blessed. You all be blessed, and I will see you all. We will see you all later. God bless.